Hey, welcome. We're always told that things like war and geopolitics are the biggest threats to our wallets. But what if the real battle isn't the one you see on the front page? Today, we're going to dig into a theory that suggests a massive, hidden conflict between two totally different economic worlds is already happening. And the outcome? Well, it could change absolutely everything. So, you see it all the time, right? You hear news about global conflicts, rising tensions, and then you feel it at the gas pump. And it's super easy to connect those dots and think, yep, war is the biggest threat to my financial stability. But what if that's just the tip of the iceberg?
Well, according to the folks we're looking at today, those headlines are a really convenient distraction. The argument, laid out right here by Speaker Blaine Holt, is that the real issue is an incredibly fragile global financial system. He actually calls it a Ponzi scheme, which is a pretty explosive claim. It's basically a system that needs new money constantly coming in just to pay off old debts. And you know what happens to those? They're always destined to collapse. So let's really get into what they mean by that.
Okay, so the theory really boils down to this huge conflict between two competing economic models. First up, let's talk about the system that's been running the show for like the last 50 years. The source calls it the financialist system, and spoiler alert, they do not paint a rosy picture of it. So what in the world is financialization? Well, the way our source material breaks it down, it's basically an economy where actually making stuff takes a backseat to just making money from money. Think about it. Housing, healthcare, you name it. It's all viewed as just another income stream for Wall Street and the big global financial players. Okay, and this right here is maybe one of the most powerful analogies in the whole discussion. One of the speakers, Susan Daniels, describes this financial system, get this, as a giant parasite just sucking the life out of the real productive economy. I mean, wow. It's a really stark image that just cuts right to the heart of their whole argument. And according to them, this system has created a problem that is just mind-bogglingly huge. The source estimates there's somewhere between, and these numbers are almost hard to say out loud, $22 and $42 trillion of what they call bad paper, basically worthless assets propping up this giant mountain of debt. To put that into perspective, they claim this is a ticking time bomb that makes the 2008 financial crisis look like a firecracker. All right, so let's just do a quick recap. According to the source, this is the financialist playbook. Step 1, create money from debt, basically out of thin air. Step 2, base value on pure speculation, not what a company actually does. And here's the kicker. Use huge world events, like wars, to cover your tracks when the whole house of cards starts to wobble. Okay, so that's the problem they lay out. Now let's flip the coin and look at the other side of this conflict, the alternative. The source claims a quiet revolution is already happening, a huge strategic shift back to what they call the physical economy. Right, so the core idea here is that there's a deliberate effort underway to basically pull the plug on that speculative bubble. The goal? To pump all that energy and capital back into things you can actually see and touch. Factories, resources, real infrastructure. It's all about rebuilding a nation's ability to actually produce things. And this is where it gets really interesting, because they point to specific pillars of this new physical economy. We're talking about the absolute fundamentals: energy independence, strategic minerals, steel, aluminum, and even shipbuilding. And this isn't just theory. The source points to a massive $5 billion investment from South Korea into the Philadelphia shipyards as a real-world, concrete example of this shift happening right now. So this slide really just lays it all out, side by side. It's a tale of two systems. On one side, you've got a system obsessed with speculation and debt, all controlled by financial markets for the benefit of a global elite. And on the other side, a system focused on production and real assets, aiming for national independence and controlled by actual productive capacity. I mean, you can't get more different than that. It's a total clash of worldviews. Okay, so this is the crucial question, right? How does an economic battle like this actually play out in the real world? This isn't just some theory in a textbook. The source argues this is a fight happening right now in the political arena, and it has a very clear strategy and even a timeline. So here's the sequence of events the speakers are anticipating. The idea is that by the end of the summer, the general population starts to actually feel the positive effects of the shift to a physical economy, in their jobs, in their communities. Then you use that good feeling to fire up your base at a special convention in September, leading right into the November midterm elections with a really energized electorate. Now, a really key piece of this whole political strategy, as detailed in our source, is about securing the vote itself. The theory goes that an executive order could use federal power, specifically over the Postal Service, to create one single approved list for absentee voters. Then, ballots would get new security features like barcodes to make them way easier to track and verify. This would also give a legal basis to challenge the idea of counting ballots for weeks and weeks after Election Day. The end goal, according to the source, is to make the process the same for everyone, nationwide. All right, so this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the end game. If this massive economic and political shift is really happening, where is it all going? The speakers speculate that it could lead to something huge, a complete and total overhaul of our entire monetary system. And they talk about two main possibilities for what a new system might look like. First, a return to a system backed by a real, tangible asset like gold. They see that as a pretty likely contender. But they are really skeptical about a crypto-based system. They point to some massive technical problems, like the future threat of quantum computers that could just shred crypto's encryption. And a more immediate issue, not that many people are actually using it. Public adoption is still really low. So you have to ask, why would anyone go along with such a massive change? Well, one of the speakers, Blaine Holt, shares this really powerful story. He was stuck in a crazy long airport line, and he was expecting to see everyone angry and yelling. But he didn't. He saw something he thought was way more powerful. Just resignation. This universal feeling that the system is broken and there's nothing you can do about it. And he describes that as the very last stage, right before people really, really get nuts. And that, right there, leaves us with this final, really provocative question. If you take the argument from our source, that the current system is incredibly fragile, and you combine that with a public mood that's basically at its breaking point, is a fundamental reset of our entire financial world not just possible, but maybe inevitable? That's the huge question this whole theory leaves us with.